Stop overthinking. It's not that deep. Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for being part of this. Really appreciate the comments and the shares and the likes. And we see quite a few of you have subscribed lately, and hopefully the information that we're sharing here is useful to you. And as usual, if you find any of this useful for yourself or anyone else, please kindly like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content when we do share it. So if you're here for the first time, this is the B-Voy Project channel. All we do here is talk about anything and everything that can help you as a person, as a leader, as a business person, or in person to be the best version of yourself. Okay, so what we're talking about today is how to stop overthinking. So clear thinking in uncertainty. Now, this is something that a lot of people do struggle with, and you might be one of them, or maybe you know someone who is a bit of an overthinker, something that you find in a situation where it's a situation that requires thinking. However, you find yourself thinking far too much or thinking of the what ifs. What if that happens? What if this happens? All sorts of different scenarios that might not even happen. However, as you're doing it, you find yourself justifying the overthinking because it is a possibility and it worries you. Now, it becomes an issue to a certain extent if it becomes something that then takes you away from taking action, if it's become something that slows you down from taking action. So today we're going to talk about 4 things in particular that I would recommend you considering if you're an overthinker, and these are the ones. So the first one is separate facts from what ifs. Now, this is the part I was speaking about earlier on where what if this happens, but what if that happens? This is the scenario and I need to make a decision, either A, B, or C. But what if this happens if I take this decision? What if this happens if I take that decision? So actually going through all of the what ifs and the facts, separating those two is something that could narrow down the overwhelm. Essentially, what you've got is all sorts of different scenarios that could take place, but which ones of them are actually factual, which ones are simply what ifs. So separate the what ifs and the facts. Number 2, introduce action and imperfection. Now, this is the part that's a little bit weird when you actually think about it. To a certain extent, one of the reasons why you are overthinking is because you've trained yourself that if it's not right, I don't get started. If it's not perfect, we do not do it at all. So to a certain extent, we want to encourage action and encourage training your brain that sometimes a bit of imperfection is okay. It's fine. Now, you find yourself in a situation where, for example, maybe you're supposed to do a bit of coursework or a dissertation or work that you were given at college or at school or whatever you can think of, whatever project it is that you need to hand in or that you need to give to someone else for assessment. And you keep thinking, I need to change this, I need to change that, I need to change this doesn't quite look right, this doesn't quite look right. What that ends up doing is you don't actually end up taking the action. You don't end up submitting the course. You end up late with it, or even worse, you don't end up doing it at all because there's so many things that you need to change to get to a level of perfection. Taking action is taking the small actions that you need to, that you can do to be able to move forward, and then introducing a bit of imperfection. Now, if you do this on purpose, you train your brain that even though you actually do things that are slightly imperfect or a bit not right, it's not the end of the world. What we're trying to do here is bring a balance between moving forward and that resistance that you have of having to do things perfectly. Bring that down so that we encourage a balanced moving forward, because if you wait for it to be perfect, you don't move. If you just move willy-nilly without thinking about the quality of your work, then you end up giving really bad work. So you want to find that balance. And for people that are overthinkers, serial overthinkers, one of the things that they use as justification is it's not quite right yet, or this is not quite the right thing for me to do just yet. You want to slightly train your body or your brain, you train your brain to be a little bit imperfect and to say that imperfection is not the end of the world. It's okay. You don't necessarily have to have it perfect before you take your movement forward. Okay. Number 3 that would recommend is anchor yourself in the present. This is something that's very difficult for most people to do, because even as you're doing what you're doing right now, your mind is either in the past or it's in the future. This is happening because of what happened before. I can't do this because what could potentially happen. Whilst these are good things to look at in terms of what actions you're taking, because you want to understand consequences, you will obviously learn from what's happened before, and also you want the action that you take now to make your future better. However, overthinkers, when it becomes overthinking, this means you're doing too much of it. Thinking is fine because you have to think to take action, but overthinking then numbs you because you look far too far into the future and you look at too many varieties of options of what could potentially in the future, and you start struggling to ground yourself in the present, right? So number 3 is focus and ground yourself in the present, and we use the 5 4 3 2 1 rule, where if you find yourself thinking about all sorts of different scenarios of what could happen out there, what could potentially be a threat in the future, you count 5 4 3 2 1, bring yourself into the now. What is actually happening now? How is this actually affecting you right now? Is it actually affecting you now? Or are you now struggling the pains and challenges of what could potentially happen in the future, and you bring it to the now? So ground yourself in the present. All right. The last one, number 4, is create worry windows. I love this one. This is my favorite one. Create worry windows. So typical overthinkers, and that might be you, tend to worry so much about so many things. Now, when we say overthinking, it's a sort of lightened down version of over worrying. Actually, the worrying part of it is where the thinking is taking place. We're mostly thinking about the things that could go wrong. We're worrying so much about certain things that it numbs us, and it ends up pushing us from doing the things that we know they're actually going to be worth it. You decide that this is the thing I want to achieve, and to be able to do that, I need to take action 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you start thinking of all the things that could go wrong in those actions. And eventually you talk yourself out of doing the thing that you wanted to do start with. And this is the worry. This is the challenge. And this is why we recommend operating and creating worry windows. So if you're a person who worries a lot, chances are you will be worrying for most of the day. However, we recommend you actually create a 5 to 15 minute window once in a while. You can make it once a day, or you can make it 2 or 3 times a day, but specific times that you allocate to say, right, that's my window of thinking of all of the horrible things that could potentially happen. Write them down if you want to. Talk about them if you want to, but only allocate that time so that whatever it is that's building up within you in concern, and you're being pushed to suppress it and you can't talk about it, that is unhealthy. So you want to find yourself in a situation where you healthily create an opportunity to let out all of the crazy stuff that you can think of, whether it could happen or it could not happen. You want to allow your body and brain to actually express it. Create worry windows. You can do this with an accountability buddy. You can do this on your own. Write it down if you want to. But essentially, it's allocating a space and a time for yourself to actually say, right, these are the things that I'm really worried about. Just by doing that alone, it actually lightens the load. You probably won't realize this, but psychologically, this actually takes out the pressure. It's almost like you've got this big stress bucket, and when you allow yourself to actually release in that worry window, you're opening the tap so that the stress that you've got in the bucket slightly slows down and it starts coming down to a manageable level because you've managed to express. So we tend to say a problem shared is a problem halved. The reason behind that is not because someone has come up with half a solution. No, it's just because the fact that you've said it out loud, you've written it down, just by saying it is half of the solution. So that's why we say create worry windows. Okay, those are the 4 things that I would recommend for you guys to have a think about. if you are one of those overthinkers. And as mentioned at the start of this, if you find any of this information useful in any way whatsoever, feel free to share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if just miss out on any of the videos when we post them. And if you have anything to add, any questions that you might have, feel free to put it in a comment down below. We'll be glad to look at it and respond to you. Very grateful for you guys actually listening, and hope to see you soon. Take care.